Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Birdroom. I'm Shane from Direct Bird Products for all you new viewers out there. Um, this week's episode is going to be quite a mixed batch. A couple of questions that I will be doing in later videos, but one of them is just basically the progression of the molt and what I'm doing off to wean the birds out of the molt. So some of the questions, obviously, I will answer some of the part of the question will be answered in today's episode, and obviously, as we run through the weeks, it'll explain more rather than just packing it into one and trying to give you the details on the birds at the time. Basically, what I'm trying to say is some of the birds are coming out of the molt now. Some have got a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks to go. And as they're progressing through the molt, I'll explain what I'm doing at that situation as that point arises. It does bring me on to the point, obviously, the shows are coming up. The first one that I'll be doing is Aldershot. It's a memorial show. I've done this, it's a CBS show, it's not a massive show, but it's a chance to get the birds out there, give them a bit of show training in a real situation. And obviously with the movement of people around and the judges and the stewards moving the birds around, it really helps the birds out to get them in that show state when it does come to the bigger shows. So yes, quite a mixed bunch today. I'm going to show you the chaffinches, and obviously that is the first part of the question of obviously weaning your birds out of the molt. And I've chose the chaffinches for a reason, because they finished the molt, they went in the molt really early. As obviously people do watch the videos, we had the nest built by the hen bird, and she never laid because she went into the molt. She went into a molt really early. They're completely out of the molt, and they look stunning. It's a lovely pair, but obviously I'll explain more when it comes on to that. Also, I'm going to show you a couple of the northern bullfinches. I'm not going to disturb the British bullfinches, the native bullfinches, because they're in a different flight. And one thing about bullfinches, even with chaffinches, stress this time of year, and they're not finished molting, stress while they're in the molt with any type of bird is not good for them. So rather than me stress the birds out, and just to show you guys, it's not worth me stressing them up and maybe even losing them. So obviously chaffinches. Before I show you the chaffinches, I'm just going to explain about them. Through obviously breeding season, they do need live food, as I've explained many a time. They're really dependent on live food. What I feed them through obviously molting periods, because they're mixed in with other birds in one of the flights to molt out, I've just been giving them a general soap seed mix. I've said it and shown you many a time. If you haven't seen that, go and look at the other videos on our channel, and it explains the seeds we're using in there and how often and everything in there anyway. So I will be giving that through the molting period, rather than going round individual birds giving it individual foods. I just find it easier to give a balance, such as the canaries. They'll get the general mix, and the greenfinches and so on and so on. But as the chaffinches and the other light birds starting to come out of the molt, what I do with them is put them on just a British finch mix, even a canary mix. Every so often I'll give them the tidbits, a bit of egg food here and there. Chaffinches not really bothered with green food, so you're not got to worry about that too much. But same thing again, you want to keep them active rather than just on the perch, eating, drinking, same thing. Chaffinches themselves are a long-lived bird and a really hardy bird, so this is why I've not got no problem catching them up. However, chaffinches, if you're in a situation where you've got a massive flight and it's going to take you a while to catch them birds, try and be as quick as possible. I've lost them in the past, and I know my dad did years ago, trying to catch them up, and they actually go into a fit, and they'll just 9 times out of 10 they'll end up dying on you. So just be careful in that instance if you are trying to catch chaffinches up out of a massive flight. So obviously, if you're keeping them in cages, it's easier to catch anyway, but obviously mine was in the flight. So we'll get over to the chaffinches. I'll show you obviously a couple of videos on them, and explain a little bit more about them, what we're looking for in as an exhibition type anyway. And it'll give anyone that is interested in showing a bit of an insight on what to look for, because chaffinches do vary in colour quite a lot. So this is my pair of chaffinches, the ones that you've seen in the early videos that did go to nest. The hen bird being here, the cockbird being this one here on the left hand side. The hen bird itself is totally the wrong colour for showing. As a chaffinch hen, and don't get me wrong, I mean the feather quality on these is brilliant. They've been in a flight, and chaffinches in themselves have got quite short feathered, so they've got that appearance of a tight silk feather. But for the colour of an hen bird, it wants to be a darker colour, olive type green colour. They're not particularly hard to steady down once you start training them. I mean, I don't train these because I've not shown, especially the hen bird, I've never shown her. Cockbird I've shown, he's done alright in shows before. But as it goes, the chaffinch cock would never beat one of our green finches, for instance, so he doesn't get as much of a go out as what he probably should do. He's sort of wasted, but sometimes I will give him a go in the shows just to give the variety in a show when we come to showing birds. People that come in, the public that come in, do want to see different types of bird rather than a class of 30 green finches. But don't get me wrong, that is brilliant, but they want to see a different variety of bird. Believe it or not, this hen bird, like I said, she's never been in a show cage, so she's working a perch as well, just a totally wrong colour. Now the cockbird, perfect colour. This camera probably doesn't pick it up. You don't want the red that you think you would, not the red of a bullfinch. You want sort of a peachy red, plum red, peachy red, sort of a washed out red. Not not your bullfinch or apple type of colour that you'd imagine it to be. It's more of a plum colour I would go for, as big as possible, and obviously as steady as possible. Does get you everywhere. But I mean, as it goes, I mean, like I said, I could train this chaffinch cock to work the perches better if needed, and slow down a bit with a bit more training experience. Remember last year we had no shows, so he never went in a show cage. He was just left in the flights or in the cage, just to do his own business. Cage size for these is a number 3. These are in a number 3, but these are in an English pattern number 3. You can put them in a Scottish pattern if you wanted to. I've put them in an English pattern just because they work the perches better rather than being cramped up in a smaller cage. And it does, I think they do show themselves better when they can actually work the perches better. But like I said, a lovely pair, and hopefully next year we'll get some young out of these and just keep going on with them. This is the first year that I've not bred chaffinches, so quite a shame, but it does happen, and for some reason, or one reason or another, she went into the molt earlier than expected. But yeah, they're the chaffinches. We'll move on next to a pair of northern bullfinches. So here we have a pair of northern bullfinches, Siberian bullfinches, whatever you want to call them. You can see the hen on the right hand side, heavily still in the molt. The cockbird, nice cockbird, just about finished the molt now. Beautiful birds. These are just a pair of normals. As anyone knows with Siberian bullfinches, the variety of mutations out there is endless, and some really pretty colours, from the yellows, pieds, pastels. The variety is endless. If you haven't, or if you want to know more information on bullfinches, check out the video I did earlier on in the season on Siberian bullfinches. Basically just a bigger cousin to our native British bullfinches. Not as much colour as what our native bullfinches have, That's in the normal aspect, that is anyway. So what we're looking for in a show type of bullfinch? Well, basically the same type as what our British bullfinches are, as big as possible, nice bold shape, good cut above the eye, where the mask goes. On the, especially the cockbird, you'd be able to tell it a lot more than what the hen bird would be. And obviously the colour. The colour is main thing. The cockbird is quite a nice style of cockbird, decent colour. Um, I can't really judge on the end. She's in a terrible state still. Still heavily in the molt. Like I said, probably another 2 or 3 weeks with her. One thing this year I have noticed with the Siberian Bullfinches, and this will explain itself, they've had a really bad molt. I've got one or two, in maybe even 3 in cages that look like they've been pulled from an edge backwards this year. The worst that I've seen bullfinches molt anyway. And my idea behind this is the amount of feather that's on these birds. They're obviously big feathered birds compared to the British counterparts, and obviously they've got to get rid of that feather, and they just look terrible while in the molt, as you can see with this end. But this is nothing. Earlier on in the, well, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I had a friend come round looking at them, and they looked in a terrible state, and they're coming through now. But it's nothing to do with the breeder, the birds. It's just, oh, breeder. It's to do with the birds only. It's to do with the type of feather on the birds, and obviously the feathers have got to come out, and they just look a mess. One way to combat this is just constantly spraying them daily, or offering baths on them daily. It'll get them through the molt faster. But a lovely pair. This pair in particular I won't be keeping. These will be going. I will need to make room later on in the season, and as I'm going through birds now, I'm looking what's to keep and what's to go. This pair will be going. I'm sure there's a lovely home out there waiting for them. So now we are looking at a pair of, oh, it's not a pair, it's 2 current year bred crossbills. See what the one's doing here, tilting his head back. That's quite common for crossbills, if you imagine. Up in the trees looking around and how they get the pine cones and stuff. Totally normal for them. It's not like when we see goldfinches or redpolls doing it, we don't want them to do it. This is just total normal behaviour for them. I would say at this point, henbird, cockbird. I'm not 100% sure on that. I'm not an avid breeder of crossbills. I'm sure someone out there could tell me 100%, but from my knowledge of them, I would say hen, cock. Purely just on the colour. The cockbirds I've always found a lot more intense colour than the hen birds. These are what Mark bred. Lovely birds. Probably what I will do with these next year is hybridize them, depending on what they turn out to be. It makes no difference. I can hybridize either way, or even a crossbill mule with a Norwich. So there's plenty of options for them. Over the next few weeks, when they have finished the molt, I will be able to tell a lot more and know what I'm going to do with them. As far as colour feeding, you can colour feed your crossbills, Carrefour Red. They do take to it really well and do colour up fantastic. Obviously the reason I haven't, because I'm not going to be showing them, there's no point in putting that that type of chemical through the liver for no reason whatsoever. It's not going to do them any harm really. They're quite big birds compared to siskins and redpolls, but I'd rather prolong it for a few years and get some young ones out of them. Speaking about the molt, one thing to bear in mind with crossbills rather than other British hardbills. British hardbills, as they go, usually start the molt, current year bred birds that is anyway, around 6 weeks old. Crossbills are different to that. 8 weeks, 10 weeks, they can even just start breaking the molt at that period. It's not like canaries and like I said about other native finches, because they do take longer to start the molt than what other birds would. So just bear that in mind. I mean, I had one before these, one that I bred. He was 9 weeks before he started to molt out. So if you are breeding them, and for the first time that is, I'm wondering why they're not starting to molt. It's just they do tend to take longer before they start dropping into that molt. Then again, these birds quite well, very easy to keep. Easy enough to breed. If you breed green finches, you're going to be able to breed these. They're basically a cross-beat green finch, in my opinion. Antics and everything's the same. They eat the same type of diet except for the pine cones, and they're pretty much a green finch to look after. Really easy. If you are going to look to buy a pair this year, maybe up at Stafford, just bear in mind where you're going to put them. Chewing, for instance, they do chew everything, and they do know how to escape, so bear that in mind as well. But yes, 2 current year crossbills. Let's see if we can get this one up. He just wants his dinner. Yeah, you'll never really stop him from doing that. But yep, crossbills for you. As you may be able to tell, these allergies, feathers and catching the birds up, playing quite an havoc with me today. The sun's obviously been blistering up last couple of days, so yeah, it's hard to try and show you everything when you can hardly breathe in the shed. Everything's going, the fans are going and things like that, but it doesn't help. Anyway, so that was the couple of the younger birds, the crossbills and stuff. And as we're progressing further through the molt, you'll be able to see a lot more. I mean, I've already shown you the fives and some of the other birds. At some point when we get the goldfinches in, I'll show you them. One thing to bear in mind though, and I have said this before, don't look at a bird today and think, right, that is one that's going to go because it doesn't look right today. Birds are going to keep changing over the next couple of weeks, especially with the fives. Green finches, definitely. My green finches, basically, me and my daughter caught them up a couple of weeks ago and put in separate flights. Basically, I picked 5 or 6 pairs that I was going to definitely keep and put them in one flight, cocks in one, hens in another. And basically, the ones that at that point didn't look too brilliant, cocks in one and hens in another. And as today, looking through them, it's amazing how much they've changed. So, but this is a procedure. Anyone that breeds birds will know how much the birds do change. And obviously, when I look back on them, or look again in a couple of weeks' time, when they finish the molt and they start to fill out a little bit more, albeit that they're in flights, if they were in cages like I've got these training up for the shows, the cages they will fill out a lot quicker and look a bit more cobbier, what we want for green finches. But we'll re-look at them in a few weeks, so just bear that in mind. What I'm going to show you next is a current year green finch cock. This one you've not seen. This one was bred by Mark. This is one I took out of flight 2 weeks ago, and there was just something about the colour on this bird, and he's in cage number 3. You won't be able to see because it's behind this breeding records. When I was obviously looking back at the birds that what I'd bred anyway, looked in there and earmarked what's keeping and vice versa. So obviously I've been using it. But I'll catch the greenfinch cockbird up and let you have a quick look at him. I mean, the colour on him is better than the other cockbird, which I will get out, that I've already picked out. But the one that I've picked out already has got the style that I'm looking for, but yet the other one's got better colour. And it really does depend on the judge on that day what he's looking for. But possibly they'll probably both be going to a show anyway, because I reckon the other one's probably going to outdo it in the end and fill out a little bit more. So I'll catch him up now and let you have a quick look at that one. This is the two that I'm talking about. This has got way better colour. Typically he's got a bit of crap on him Anyway, this is better colour. This is the type of colour I'd be looking for, but the feather quality on this one and the style on it, for me now, is better than this one. But I'm in no doubt that this bird will turn out better. He's an handful of a bird. He's got the weight on him already. He's completely finished the molt, so there's no stress. He's eating and putting the weight on. When they're in the molt, they're eating just to keep active. And obviously this one, when I picked him up, you can feel that he's not got the weight on him. But I think he's going to turn out a better bird than this one. Same again, these are in the English pattern. Just it does actually show the size off better, in my opinion. Rather than being in a smaller cage, they may appear bigger in the smaller cage, but I think they actually look bigger in a bigger cage. How many times have you seen them in the flights and thought to yourself, that is a massive bird? To only catch it up and put it in a show cage doesn't look as big. That's a concept that I look at it by anyway. But as you can see, they've steadied up quite well. I mean, this one's probably had in all an hour and a half show training. This one probably 2.5 hours. Yeah, something definitely to work with this year at the shows. That is just some of the birds, obviously, what we're looking at. And like I said, as the season progresses through the molting season, the canaries, definitely the canaries, we've got a basic canary mix. Goldfinches, siskins, redpolls, and type of stuff will be going on. The equivalent mixes for them, redpoll mix, siskin and goldfinch mix. Crossbills, like I've already said, all I do is give them a basic greenfinch mix. Hard seed, as soon as they finish the molt for me, they don't need that that softness, because obviously when the birds are going through the molt, the beaks are not hardened off yet. I mean, I watched one of the young greenfinches trying to shell a safflower seed, and determined as it tried. Now I watched it for a while, couldn't still do it. So this is why I obviously soak it to soften the shells. Norwich, at some point, they will just be going on plain canary seed. It's something that I took from years ago. What my dad used to just feed them a basic plain canary seed. It doesn't do them any harm. It doesn't fatten them up. You don't want fat stores over winter. Although you'd need a little bit, but end of the day, through winter, coming into spring, you want all that fat completely gone, ready for breeding condition, and get the birds as fit as possible. So it's a fine line between overfeeding and not feeding. Same with the greenfinches. The one I've just shown you, the one that's completely finished the molt now, that's as fat, if you like, as I would like him. He's got everything that he needs now in him for the size without him getting over fat. So if he was to put more weight on, what I would do is stick him in a flight for a couple of weeks, or even a flight cage like this, burn a bit of that off, and then a week before a show, stick him back in the cage over there, steady him up again, and in no time he'd be show fit. On greenfinches, and this goes to other birds as well, redpolls, it's endless with the colour, but the reason I'm picking up on greenfinches, it's just something that unless you've bred them for a number of years, you won't really think about this. And it took me a few years to actually get it into my head that this is what happened. So basically, as your greenfinches are molting out now, they'll finish the molt, but they've not completely finished. I know obviously the young cockbird has, but they've not completely finished. They've still got feathers, the down feathers underneath the actual feathers that will still come out and produce that colour. Hen birds are notably different. I could pick an hen bird out now, which I've got in cage number 1, and there's one in cage number 5. Same thing. I've got one hen that I know is completely finished because it's one that I bred early on. the actual brother to the other one, and one end that's not finished, and the colour's not there yet, but the colour will come just as they're finishing off. The actual colour from the feathers underneath will come out and show that colour off. That's if they're a decent colour greenfinch, for instance, but not always. They don't always turn out the colour that you want. But like I said, I'm not going to stress this enough. Don't be too hasty to get rid of them. Have a look through and have a double look through again and again and again before you do let them go. Last thing you want to do is get rid of your birds just to put a bit of money in your pocket, and later on down the line you're going to need that bird back, and guarantee you you're not going to pick that bird up for the same price you let it go for. It's odds law and it always happens. But yes, I mean, that's pretty much what's going on in my shed now. The diets are all the same. Water, Baycocks are still going on once a month. Vitamins and minerals in the water, same thing as I did last month, and it's going to carry on now for another month till October. And then once October comes, it'll just be on a basic water, dry seed, as simple as that. And this is where the bird keeping gets easier. And there'll be less cleaning out to do, less cleaning up to do with the amount of feathers that I constantly have to clean up in here, causing me havoc as well, that is. But yes, that's it for today. In a future episode, I will be running through a show schedule. I'm waiting for a new one to come, like I said, the older shot one, and I will try and describe in best way possible how to actually clash your birds. Like I said, it's harder to explain than it is to actually put it on paper. But it's not rocket science, quite simple. And like I said, if you're not even showing, why don't you just pop down to Older Shot? It's on the 9th of October in Ash, near Guildford. If you're local to that, pop in and have a look. Beautiful birds will be on display, and we'll have some there, or I will have some there anyway, and hopefully we'll do okay. Some of the fives, the current year ones, will get a good outing. Same with the greenfinches. Hybrids, mules, we'll see what the Twilight mule and the hybrid. We'll see if they're finished. By the looks of it, they're on that cusp now of almost being there. But yes, that's it, and thanks very much for watching. All your bird needs, head over to our website, directbirdproducts.com, or hit us up on Facebook, Direct Bird Products. And if you haven't already, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you are new to our channel, and every time we upload a video you will get a notification and let you know that we have uploaded. Anyway, I will see you again soon. Take care and enjoy your birds. Thanks for watching, guys.